And with me now is Leo Cussons, standing in Glenfaba and Peel, and he's also standing on the Isle of Man Green Party ticket. Lots to go at here then. So, first of all, of course, why do you feel you're ready to do this?
Well, I've been canvassing since, I suppose, September last year, speaking to residents, so I started quite early. There's half a dozen of issues that, there's so many issues in Peel, the list is almost endless in that respect. And they're not small issues, they're major issues that have been neglected for the best part of 15 years.
Some examples?
Well, obviously there's the well-known issues that are what I call them the 6 infrastructure issues, which we have Silt in the Harbour, the sewage works, the Coran Home, the doctor's surgery, cloth workers school, QE2 stem cell, and there's always the roads to go in there too.
Okay, so what makes you do this now? Why standing though? Because and also the Green Party ticket. Explain that as well.
Well, obviously the Green Party, we've been holding the government for account for the last 4 or 5 years, and we can obviously read about that in the press. The last administration started off, they didn't have a climate plan, a climate bill. They didn't even think about legislation. It wasn't in their programme for government. And by the time they'd wrapped up, they'd passed climate legislation. And that's in no small part thanks to the efforts of a large number of third-party sector organisations, and us included, and one can sort of track that. So we've got a team that's been quite good at holding the government to account, and we feel that, obviously I feel that we need to take that to the next step and look at doing that as part of government.
Do you have issues with the incumbent there for Glenfaba and Peel? Their positions and their, I'm thinking of obviously Mr. Boot and DEFRA and that sort of thing. Would you do things differently?
I think people have felt very not represented. I think is the easiest way to express that. That is a great failing for democracy to work. People have to practice it, and you have to be represented. And there are very critical sort of issues there. And I think that without that, then people say, well, they don't get engaged, and that spirals into things. Now we have 7 candidates. This is great. Potentially, I suppose maybe 1 or 2 more. But to get quality, you need to have this engagement, and of course the electorate will say, well, they've been so disappointing and they've produced so little results. And then often I've done meetings where we've spent the whole meeting talking about how Tynwald works. And that is a mystery, even to probably seasoned people that follow it. Sometimes we are amazed at the lack of progress that we perhaps might expect on certain things, or what issues would seem fairly obvious.
And do you follow Tynwald yourself with the House Keys? Do you go in there and watch it and take part? In the sense of not take part, but watch the proceedings underway.
Oh yes, yeah, we've been doing that for quite some time and following it. And obviously we debate these issues and discuss them and try to sort of played a big part in it, and not least obviously in the last year.
So away from the local to the national side of things, with the Green Party ticket still here, it's the obvious stuff, is it? More green energy and the likes, passive houses. I don't know.
Well, there's going to be a programme for government, and now we noticed that. We only have 2 candidates running. We're in the sort of start. This is our first election, national election. There's other people that hopefully will see things in our programme for government that they would like to see happen. We can't predict what will happen in the end result. And then we'll obviously have individual manifestos too, which will cover local and things that aren't covered so much by the party.
And they wouldn't conflict. I always ask, is anyone standing for a party? If you had a fallout, would you carry on, or would you go for a by-election, or what sort? Have you got a plan if anything goes wrong between your beliefs and the party belief?
Obviously all sorts of things can happen in life, but I've been involved in this for an awful long time. I've been involved in recycling, in these sort of discussions, how better, and a lot of what the Greens have to offer, if we look at it that way, it's common sense. These are things that are going to reduce your costs, they're going to reduce your outgoings, they're going to give you more money in your back pocket. And then just as a side fact, they're also going to be good for your biosphere, and you're going to have a better possibilities and advantages, which, there's great room for what we have to offer.
So more electric cars. We will have wind generation.
Well,
all these things.
we have to, we have to come down to. I mean, obviously that's going to happen. That transition, whether you elect a Green Party member or not. I mean, there are some things that we have to see. That there are quite some large changes. Perhaps going forward, it's going to have to be less consumption. But I mean, some of these things are easier, and some of these things are harder. I think I don't think it's actually. In my experience, when I've been knocking on the doors on an election issue, the majority of people certainly accept what Tim would have done so far, although there's no teeth on that, and then the biosphere is not enshrined in law. But they're more focused on things that were basic facilities at the moment we are lacking.
I presume you would work with other parties. You indicated that there, but you won't know until you get in exactly, or if you got in, or who else gets in, and that sort of thing. So, horse trading has to be done with it at some point, because other parties have similar ideas now, don't they? That's getting to that, I suppose, here. Looking at the environment, that's become more major for most people.
All the parties. I don't expect there'll be a candidate that won't be saying how important the environment is. But I mean, you have to look, and this is the part of the process. People have to look at the candidates, look at their history, look at what they're saying, look at supposedly and also how they're saying it. A lot of people say that, but a lot of people don't really. If you haven't sort of canvassed or stood outside Tynwald in the rain on a Friday afternoon, arranged, I mean, we've done must be 30 or 40 meetings around the island, spent countless hours talking to people. I mean, it takes that kind of involvement, and then you're looking for a result. You're engaged to such a level that you understand it, and I think that's there's a solution to every problem. I think that's often missed too, is that when we come to a lot of these issues, people say, oh, it can't be done and this can't be solved. Well, I don't believe that. I just believe it's on the calibre of the person you have in that role. If you want to solve things, you can solve things.
Would you like to be inside government if you got in?
So, I mean, traditionally it's unusual. I suppose there's particularly a strong mandate or an exceptional candidate. But I think I've stated before that the issues that are related to the sewage works and the DOI, which we know is a troubled organisation, I think that I would take a role in that because it's the most difficult.
So DOI, you actually want to go into DOI? Because it's one of the most difficult.
I'm unlikely to be in the situation, but I would.
You'd be a member of the department.
So it's a plausible thing, yes, so I would. I mean, I think you have to put your money where your mouth is, and I've been talking and canvassing and looking at these situations, and my primary concern is to solve the sewage works and these infrastructure problems. I mean, we cannot get around those issues.
And how do you solve it?
Well, the department, the culture in the department doesn't encourage responsibility, doesn't encourage an environment where they succeed or where they create things, and the political representative needs to be able to hold the executive better to account to create that environment. I don't think it's a particularly difficult thing, but it requires, it's in the detail, and it requires probably a lot of work. I mean, where's the project manager for the sewage works, and where is his number? I mean, our current incumbents don't seem to be having those sort of conversations after 15 or best part of 20 years in that respect. So I know that I'm very, but it doesn't happen overnight. But it does happen if we want it to happen.
Well, there's been investigations into the DOI and all its future.
Well, I don't encourage these consultants or third parties. I want people to take responsibility, and I think the majority of my conversations are based around people taking responsibility. We're old enough. We've seen the last 20 years, and I think that's really an island-wide thing. It's about responsibility, because when the consultant comes in and it's wrong, and we've seen that with the building of the harbour, the marine in the first place, everyone has these great ideas and they turned out to be wrong. We need people to take responsibility. It's fine, we can accept some mistakes, but we just want someone to take responsibility.
Who do you see as the Chief Minister in your view?
I'm largely in favour of a female candidate being Chief Minister, but it obviously needs to be someone that you can unite and lead and has a vision.
And by that very nature, it's someone that's not actually a minister at the moment or hadn't been a minister, because there wasn't one.
No, I mean, and why have this? Well, I mean, we haven't had a female chief minister. There's good reason. Women are obviously 50%. They need to be represented, and we need to enable that situation where they can be represented. I believe they have a great deal to give.
Yeah. And finally, full-time position for you? You know, day jobs, wherever. You go to one side. You would be committed to this full-time?
Oh, I think it's a bit more than full time, but yes.